For the duration of our documentary, we'll be taking a riveting educational journey through the work of art such as Beowulf, The Pardoner's Tale, The Modest Proposal, and Paradise Lost. As my experts continue with this documentary, it's important to keep in mind that sin is the unifying evil in the world and also in literature. It is the driving force behind the actions of protagonists and the reactions of antagonists. As we move on as the viewer, it's your job to keep these questions in mind. What kinds of sin? Why is that a sin? Based on the time period each work was written.
In The Modest Proposal, Swift portrays England, the Irish conflict, in a comparison between good and evil and the unjust English government and the poor, righteous Irish. In the story, we see the plot of 500 years come from tyrannical rule of England to the British citizens and the government. The sin of the British is greed. By oppressing the Irish and extorting them with the sin, it is a retribution type sin that Swift, writing in his very satirical essay, bashes his own government for becoming very, very greedy on the outlook of things. The reason that greed in the satirical essay is prominent is that it is one of the cardinal sins. In the 18th century, these sins were frowned upon. This goes to show the overall thesis of sin being the source of all evil and how it plays out in both the historical context of English government and Swift's Modest Proposal.
Hi, my name is Ren Lindsay, and I am an expert on Beowulf. In the epic poem Beowulf, there is a high degree portrayal of externality because the antagonists of the poem are supernatural beings, or descendants of Cain. The manifestation of these supernatural evils has a large correspondence to the time period the poem was written in, Anglo-Saxon. There was a strong Christian influence, but pagan values were still being instilled. Therefore, the supernatural evils, including sin, had to be defeated by physical means, or were physical or characteristical sins that characters had to overcome. Beowulf was excessively prideful, believing in his own abilities, thus interfering with the recognition of the grace of God, a sin. Along with pride, Beowulf himself and other characters of the poem exist through the 7 deadly sins. Unferth exists through his envy for Beowulf, desiring his traits and abilities, not appreciating what fate or God have given him, a sin. Beowulf and all the warriors express wrath while fighting the supernatural evils of the poem. They express wrath while seeking vengeance for the fallen warriors who have been slain by their enemies.
Hi, I'm Claire, and I'm the expert on Paradise Lost. And then at first glance, it doesn't seem like Beowulf and Paradise Lost really have a lot in common, but they actually do. The heroes of each epic must battle similar evils. Satan is most similar to Grendel in this case, the first evil that Beowulf will encounter. While Grendel is definitely pagan origin, the poem definitely alludes to some Christian influences, and mainly the concept of evil, or in this case, Satan. Both demons were motivated by their hatred of the king figures that they had in their worlds. In Paradise Lost, it would be God, and in Beowulf, it would be Hrothgar. And then although Beowulf begins as a pagan epic, it was eventually expanded to include Christian elements, most likely through the use of illuminated manuscripts, where Paradise Lost was definitely a Christian tale. And in both tales, they both use a lot of references to sin and the fallen or the damned. Beowulf and Paradise Lost connection is evident and beneficial to the thesis and the general understanding of Britlit as a whole.
Oh hey, I didn't see you there. My name's Tanner Nolan. I'm the expert on The Pardoner's Tale. During the duration of The Pardoner's Tale, Chaucer uses the pardoner to help portray a lack of ethics and morals in society during the time period. It is a story riddled with sin. At its core, the tale consists of greed, the reasoning behind it, and the motivations that eventually harm the characters. The pardoner himself is a person who wrangles with greed daily, as a person who literally sells forgiveness. He's made his entire wealth off of the sins of others, giving them a guarantee that the Lord forgives them, which in itself breaks 2 commandments. Beowulf at its core is a contrast. Not only does evil exist, but a challenger to it. The good in Beowulf offsets the sin and allows for Beowulf to do great things and be recognized as a hero. The partner, in contrast, only commits to sin and therefore is punished in the end, dying without honor. Another point that shows between Beowulf and the Partner's Tale is the lack of ethics found in the two time periods. The Middle Ages were morally broken, feudalism ran rampant and created huge divides between the rich, the poor, and the church. These factors played much smaller roles in Anglo-Saxon time due to stricter moral codes. The Anglo-Saxons as a whole were much less sinful and thus much more honorable.
Hope you had a great time furthering your education with us. Some tie-up notes to end on is to keep track of how good and evil contrast each other in literature to form sin and make sin what it is. Hope you had a great time today. Happy dragon slaying.